Oh, and we're live. It's Wednesday Night Chats. I'm Brian. We got some new folks, some old folks. We got Casey.
Hey, what's up, guys?
We got Dennis.
Hi there.
And we got Chris.
Hey, Dennis, you're so dark.
Dennis
It's my mood. It's my
Dennis is
personality.
looming, okay? He's looming. Don't take that away from him.
Nice. Okay.
So tonight we're talking about small things, right? The idea is, what's a small thing that you can add to your life, that you can add to the set of practices that you do in your life that's going to support you in a practice of being a happy human being. Emphasis on small, because it happens gradually, right? We have to build up the skills that take care of us over time, right? And wherever we are, it took us a long time to get there. Wherever we want to go, it's going to take us a while to get there as well, right? But we move incrementally. So little things, get one part of our life nailed down and move out from there. The example that I've talked about a couple times on here is I fold all of my clothes before I take a shower, because when I was a younger person, it was just everything goes, it's all on the floor. Jump in the shower. And I was casting about for one of these sorts of things, just a little anchor, just a little something to remind myself every day of what I was aspiring to. And I thought, I could be a human being who folds my clothes before I get in the shower. That's a possibility for me, right? And that way, my pajama pants don't end up in a puddle nearly as often, right? If I actually think about where they end up, and that's going to be a happier life experience than putting on wet pajama pants and going ah. So
a puddle?
Yeah, because like sometimes if I've taken a shower earlier, I take like 2 or 3 showers a day, right? I'm into it. I've lived out in the sticks and not been able to shower on the regular, so sometimes there's a little bit of water here and there condensed around on the floor in the bathroom, right? So if I just running into the shower and I just shed all my clothes without like setting them on something, right? Now there's a little bit of water on my pajama pants.
That makes sense.
That's not a good life. That's not the life I want to lead.
No, that is definitely not the
I don't want to have a wet bottom. So
It's definitely a minor annoyance you prefer not to have.
yeah, and it's one that can be easily avoided. So it's like, okay, I'm just gonna take off my clothes considerately and fold them, right? Small thing, but it avoids that minor annoyance, and it also creates a moment of time in my life every single day, multiple times a day, where I'm actually forced to go like, I'm going to focus on doing a thing that I know takes care of me, and I'm going to see all of the ways that my will to do things that takes care of me gets circumvented. Because every single time I go to take a shower, there's a new story available about why I don't need to do that this time. Right? It's just like, we don't got to do that this time because, life, we got allergies today, so we've been sneezing. We should take it easy and just throw all of our crap on the floor. And it's like, no, actually, voice in my head that never provides me with useful information. I'm not actually going to do that. I'm going to keep doing the thing that I know takes care of me, right? And watching that just repeat endlessly every single day gives me a lot of insight into what's actually going on up here that subverts my will to take care of myself. So that's the frame. That's what we're on about. Who wants to share? Sounds like Casey.
I'll go first. I was going to volunteer someone else, actually. No, it's okay. What biggest thing for me is, and again, I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to be that vegan guy. Going and working out and like taking care of myself physically, right? And promoting better physical health.
Okay, what's the small thing we're doing there? Concrete.
I don't understand what you mean. Working out, going to jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, but right.
Taking care of myself?
We're looking for a small thing. Right? Because we're practicing.
A concrete unit.
Oh, a small thing. What do you mean? That's like that is a total small thing. Going to
the gym is very big for lots of people. Right?
Going to the gym on a concrete basis, that's crazy.
So my example here is I'm gonna do my laundry on a schedule.
Oh. Well, right? I mean,
that's tiny. Okay. We're practicing breaking down the practices into units that are attainable and sustainable. right? We want to do something that's actually an easy hurdle to jump over, so we can jump over it a lot of times, get that
Sure.
sweet hit of dopamine for being
I
successful.
have something else for you then. Going to sleep at a reasonable time, not 12 o'clock, well, not 1 o'clock in the morning, because guess what I did? I went to sleep at like 9:30 or 10:30, and I woke up in the morning not feeling like crap. And do you know? Like, I don't know if you guys know how awesome of a feeling that really is.
Oh, it is. And
Oh,
I
take
do
that
know.
from somebody who has pretty much chronic insomnia.
Yeah, I've had that experience.
Getting a full night of sleep is one of the best feelings on
Yeah.
earth.
Yeah, I've had that experience tens of times, so I know.
Dozens even.
Yeah,
Like, there are some days, maybe Fridays or Saturdays, I'll stay up a little later, but Sunday through Thursday, like, homie, don't play that. Not
All right.
anymore. I try not to.
let's talk concrete. What's your enforcement mechanism?
My wife.
Okay, other than your wife, because you know
No.
that if your wife tells you to go to sleep, you're gonna listen to the voice in your head that says, "I don't need to do what she tells
I also
me."
know I'm getting laid.
Right. So,
What?
We
You're not
can-
going to acknowledge that?
can we set an alarm? Can we put a note up next to your computer? Can we? What is the mechanism to get that information?
Yeah, look, Brian,
Back in
like,
your head.
a note or an alarm ain't going to work with me. It's just a matter of just
But
gritting my teeth and be like, I need to go to sleep. So I'm going to
But-
go to sleep.
But the point is the note or the alarm going to make you less likely to go to sleep?
It's not going to promote me to go to sleep because I have it already.
It's going to have zero effect.
Yeah, it's going to have zero effect.
Seeing it
It's
by
just-
your computer, you really think?
It's the same thing. It's just the same thing as in like as when I'm like, oh man, I really want to play in
So-
Haagen-Dazs. I know the few
So the
moments.
point
of
here, right,
malfunction.
is about supports, Casey. You're listening to the voice in your head that says, "I don't need to support myself in maintaining this practice. I'm just going to hold it all in my head and never get fooled." And I'm telling you, that voice does not have your best interest in mind. That's the first step of these processes getting subverted. Is
Mhm.
I'm not going to get it out of my head. I'm not going to document it anywhere. I'm not going to create a structure or support. I'm just going to have the perfect willpower to always execute this. Now, has that been your experience in the past?
I would say that's been my experience for the past 3 to 4 weeks since I've been trying it.
All right.
So for me, like I do have an alarm at 12. Generally, I'm already in bed at that time.
Okay. Well, then
tonight-
you have it. There's the concrete
Yes.
piece that we're looking for.
Tonight, it may not be the case because I just want to have another glass of whiskey and relax.
Oh, so we're
Oh,
already
I've
developing.
earned-
We're already developing exceptions.
Here's the thing.
We're already
Does,
listening to the
uh,
voice that says you've really earned a break from the things that takes care of you. You've really
Don't you-
earned a break
don't
from
you-
waking
don't you
up and
do-
feeling good.
Also,
Don't you-
here's a piece
Logic
of
against
science. I'm going to drop some
Mhm.
science really quick. Alcohol, at least for me, makes me unable to sleep, especially when I've had a little bit. And this is not the common wisdom, but generally speaking, if you have a little bit of alcohol, you get put into withdrawal immediately. So you might not call it withdrawal, but that's what it is.
Mhm.
Your inner body temperature gets hotter, and that for me alone is enough to keep me awake. Like I just get
Mhm.
hot in my sheets. Everything sucks. Like it actually elevates your metabolism. Having a little bit of alcohol before you go to bed actually does not help you sleep.
It also increases blood flow to your brain
It also
Who
does that.
in small quantities. So
Who
you're going
says
to
that?
get more active thinking. So my point here would be like, this is an excellent opportunity for process analysis, right? There's
Mhm.
the voice that says you have earned a break from the practices which take care of you. That voice is not helping. Just
That's
because it's in your head does not mean it has your best interests in mind.
Oh, trust me, I know this.
So, you should maybe evaluate, do I really need a break from that really good feeling that we just talked about
True.
of waking up well rested? Anyway,
Well.
so
Realistically,
that-
I'm only still up because I'm here to do this.
that's some things to reflect on. Let's give somebody else a shot here. Let's jump in.
Let's see. I'm gonna bring this up because I've actually done it for a very short amount of time before, and it was pretty cool. And I don't know why I stopped doing it, but at some point I did. And that was to not go to sleep while there are dishes in the sink.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's interesting.
That's a good one.
I like it.
So the thing that makes it difficult is that I live with a roommate, and the vast majority of the time the dishes are not mine because I tend to immediately clean anything that I use. And I developed this because I really don't like feeling like I have a footprint on somebody else. And that being said, I always find it annoying when I have a sink full of stuff that has stuff in it and I need to clean a dish. Like I'm trying to do the things that I do that help myself, and I can't because the sink is full.
Mm-hmm. That has been a life struggle for me for many years, let me tell you that.
Well, this was also a great conversation me and Brian had like a year ago where it was like, oh, you need to change your frame of reference. Because I was like, I'm always mad when I come home and I have to clean a dish in order to have a clean dish. And Brian was like, well, what if you make your perspective? You always have to clean a dish in order to have a clean dish. Then when you get home, you'll never be upset because your mindset will already be like, oh, I got to clean dishes to have a clean dish.
That's a really good point. And I also think that to have a clean dish also means that doesn't have to happen at the time that you're like focused on eating. That can happen the period of time where you're checking off all your stuff to do before you go to sleep.
Mm-hmm. You're decomposing those concerns and you're reducing your sort of spot stress at any given time. When it's like, I need to feed myself and I need to do dishes, that's kind of a challenging burden. Having to do dishes while you're hungry is not what you want to be doing at that time.
Yeah.
You don't want to be worrying about that. So you should just do it when you're not worrying about it. And then, yeah. You're spreading out those stressors, right? You're spreading it out. Easier to cope with. And then there's the other component to it, which is I live with a roommate that if I continually do these things, he will interpret it as a passive-aggressive sign that he needs to do them himself. And so it will reduce the strain on me over time of having to do it. So there's multiple levels here. Yeah. Also not being mad at it or not being annoyed. I have to just be like, this is the state I want things to be in, and I just have to do it myself. And there's a really great opportunity to practice there, having the experience you want to have, right? So you can take that as, okay, my roommate has created an opportunity for me to see my process of frustration unfold, right? I'm going to do these dishes, and I'm going to come at this from the perspective of, I want these dishes done, so I'm going to do them. And then at the same time, some other voice is going to tell me, but he should have done them. You should be mad about this. That's very much. And you're training yourself not to listen to that voice, because this is not the only context in your life where that voice has shitty information on offer. And so if you get good at not paying attention to the voice that says somebody should have done something and you should be upset, then your whole life gets easier. So this is a microcosm for all of life. Like all outside annoyances. Yeah.
I feel like at some point, when do you stop listening? When does just doing it? And so immediately my feeling is like, I get the feeling that I'm being taken advantage of.
So why? Who cares? Why is that a problem?
Okay. Well, then you're not defending yourself. You're not standing up for yourself.
And why do you need to do those things? These are all wonderful attitudes to evaluate.
Why do I need to
make you any happier?
Why do I need to defend myself?
Yeah.
Is that the question you're asking? Because then people come to where you're at and put a flag in the ground and then just say, hey, this is mine now.
I don't think that you would have prevented the annexation of India by being more forthright about your needs around the dishes, right? Like you're abstracting so far away from your own experience that this isn't actually relevant to your happiness anymore.
Okay.
So I get what he's saying. At some point you have to be like, you know, is my
is my continuing to do these things for other people going to lead to them continuing to do this thing? And in my situation, I actually don't think that's the case, because I know my roommate and I know what he's about, and he does take responsibility for things. He just has to be shown what to take responsibility for. But let's say that that's not the case, and it's somebody who will definitely just take advantage of you.
Churchill.
Then at that point, right, you need to build a new structure, right? But being unhappy about not doing the dishes today and being unhappy about that doesn't make you happier.
But
right?
it's
No,
not
it
the, it's not the point you're getting upset about.
hold on a
Myself,
second
the next day definitely does.
The point here is you don't actually, and this is a really important point, right? This doesn't mean whatever behavior you take on needs to be the rule for you in all times, places, and contexts, right? Because what we're advocating here is actually just paying attention to exactly the situation that you're in and taking the steps that will best promote your happiness, right? So that doesn't mean that by doing the dishes now, because that's going to make me happier, that doesn't mean that a month down the road you don't reflect and go, how has this really turned out, right? You're not beholden to do that for the rest of your life. And you're not beholden to do that in any other context of your life, because you need to assess every context of your life and find the behavior that is going to best promote your happiness there, right? And that's why I say you're generalizing so far away from this that it's not actually relevant, right? Because you don't need to make a rule the moment you start doing the dishes that I will never stand up for myself. We're not in the business of rulemaking, right? We're in the business of inspecting exactly what's going on here and finding out what is the set of actions, practices, and attitudes that best supports me being a happy human being.
So
very individualized. We're not making rules for all time. We're saying right here, right now, what is best for my happiness.
I understand that. And I came at it with the impression that, oh, what about after the X amount of times I've washed the dishes, my roommate is still like leaving the dishes for me. At what point do I say, hey, this is not something that I want to, this isn't something that it makes me happy.
Okay, but imagine that you've been doing that for 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
You can come up with this. You can come at it from a different angle. You can be like, I've been doing this for a long time. I mean, did your parents ever do this to you? Because they certainly did to me. Because they parents are expected to clean up after their kids. Their kids don't really know. They just leave shit out. Parents clean up. At some point, you get to an age, and your parents are like, "Okay, I've been doing this shit for you for so long. Are you ever going to like clean up after yourself?" And still, as a kid, you're like a little shit, and you don't understand that. But at our age, like there kind of is like at the point where you can guilt trip someone, for lack of a better phrase, you have that kind of ammo, you have that kind of standing. Whereas if you're just like, this happened to me one time, I didn't do anything about it, I'm mad. Like, who gives a shit? Like, no one cares. Like, you didn't do anything. Like, so far, this has not actually impacted you because you've done nothing.
And yeah, I was coming at the situation when I've done it more than one time, right? More than 3 times, more than 5 times or 10 times. It's just when you've clearly been taken advantage of or being taken advantage of.
But that's not what we're discussing here, right? You brought taking advantage of into the situation. That wasn't the frame we were talking about. And the point is, if that is what's unfolding, then you find a new behavior and a new structure that supports you being a happy human being. You don't have to make all your decisions all at once. And you don't, right? I have a personal belief that humans in general overvalue consistency, right? And anybody who knows me knows I'm a wildly inconsistent human being. But that's because I'm looking to what supports my happiness right now, right? And if doing the same thing that I did yesterday doesn't support my happiness, then I'm going to do a different thing.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
It's as simple as that. And as long as you you are reasonable in creating expectations for other people, right? I think that's a perfectly fair way to live your life.
Yeah.
And I think my firsthand experience has been it's a way happier way to live your life, right? I don't have to engage with ideas about like, oh, I'm being taken advantage of. And that, I mean, this is a real thing for me. Like, I did all the dishes in my house for like 9 months or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. And then I just had to sit down with my housemates and be like, hey, I've been doing all of your dishes all this time. The only thing I've ever asked for you guys is to wash your pans and pots, right? I'm happy to wash all your plates, forks. I don't care. It's not a big hassle for me.
Yeah.
I just want this done because I know that if I go through a depressive episode, I won't feed myself if the sink is full, right? Since I'm the one who wants this done, who wants to take it up to the next level, then I'm going to do that. I'm going to take that on, right? Because it makes me happier to just take that on than to be mad that nobody else is taking it on. It's not relevant to them, right?
That's fair.
And we had to have it out. Like, that wasn't pleasant, right? That wasn't a great conversation to have. People got heated, right? And it was me and Dan, right? So we yelled at each other because we have a deep and loving history of yelling at each other.
Yeah.
I lived with the guy for 8 years. We were college roommates. Like, we yelled at each other over the appropriate way to put cream cheese on a bagel at one point for like a good 45 minutes.
Well, I mean, there is only one right way.
So, but that's fine because we had that discussion.
Exactly 3.5 millimeters of.
Exactly. You're speaking my language. But
no,
we had the discussion. It came to a head. We had the discussion. We yelled at each other for a little while, right? Which sometimes, for me, it's like I like yelling, so this is great.
Cathartic.
Yeah, exactly. But then we came to a new understanding. Behaviors were changed, and I didn't end up doing as many dishes, right? They got on top of their dishes. When I had the data that this isn't actually turning out in a way that's supporting my happiness anymore, I make a different decision.
That's fair.
That's all
having the data matters.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was like getting at. I was like, okay, when does like do it? For example, in our example, it just happens that you chose like picking somebody just said doing dishes. When does that become abusive? That's all.
Right. And the response to that is when it does.
Okay.
You are called upon to attend to the detail of your life to such an extent that you can see that this is transitioned into a place that I don't want it to be. And, you're not going to hit it dead on the boundary line, right? It's going to slide along in some gray area, and then you're going to have a moment of clarity where you go, this is no longer something I'm comfortable with.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, I don't mind naming names. Yeah, I know. Like
let's keep it low. Let's keep it low on the interpersonal hostility. Okay, let's give Dennis a chance to talk about what he's. When I
live with someone whose name rhymes with Burchill.
I see. Don't be rude. Don't be rude.
I'm not being rude.
Don't be.
I'm just saying his name is.
I say that as a total hypocrite. Like, having called out Dan.
People can be best friends and still have a lot of problems living with each other because people are just different. They like different things. They value different things. It's not that weird.
I stopped being friends with Bat Churchill after he made me poop in the woods. So I'm just saying.
He did do that. It was so good. He was so salty. They are still friends. Don't let them lie to you.
I scorched the earth.
We're all literally Churchill and Dan were on here 2 weeks ago with you, Casey.
Exactly. I don't see your point.
Exactly. We're all friends here. So, Dennis, what have you got going on?
Well, I want to talk about my thing, but first we need to back up just briefly, very briefly, to the proper way to cream cheese a bagel. Because it is,
you gotta put cream cheese on the outside, right?
You take the bagel, you put it in the 2 halves, you put it in the toaster, you start toasting it on the bagel thing, toasting the outside so the inside stays soft. That's what you want to do. You want the outside crunchy.
That is heathen speed.
The bagel button on the goddamn toaster turns off the ones on the outside and turns on the ones on the inside. What the fuck are you on about?
The whole point is the heat on the inside of the bagel is what softens the cream cheese, Dennis.
God damn it. This is what we get for letting a French guy on here.
Then you take the bar of cream cheese and you do the unwrap. You just, you peel away because you get Philly cream cheese. You start peeling away
Like you
the
do.
whole top layer. You take the knife and you just slightly go under the entire bar. Then you place the entire bar on one half of the bagel, smash the top half down on top of it. Then you knife around that outside and all that excess. And then as you go, you dip the bagel in those excess pieces that came off. That's how you cream cheese a bagel.
This is really elaborate, and how I would have to see this done in person
This is
to really understand.
Slightly disproportionate quantity of cream cheese. I want everybody to know the reason that Dan and I had to have it out about this was that he was stabbing the cream cheese container open with a steak knife. He was
Okay, that's not how you do
box.
it. Oh, this is not
a
okay.
sharp knife into the side and just stabbing it
Oh
around.
no!
See, this is not like a normal dispute about like how much cream cheese is on the bagel. It's like,
this
were
wasn't.
One
you
bagel,
raised
one
by
bar.
wolves?
I want you to.
This
I want
is the question.
I want everybody to understand, full disclosure, that was not about getting the optimal way of getting cream cheese on a bagel. There were other tensions in the house that were inflamed, and Dan knew that this was an effective method of psychological warfare against me. And
Wait, Dan isn't Dan like played a warrior in our guild?
yeah.
Dan?
He's like my best friend, and I love him, right? But he got in my head.
He has like a wife.
Yeah.
He's like settled down and like has
This is
his
before
shit
that.
together.
This is
How does-
before that.
Yeah, he used to be in
Silent.
such a shitty place. He had to live with Brian.
Yeah, right? He had to put up with me for 8 years. No, but
Let's get back on
it
track.
was beautiful.
Okay.
It was well executed. It took my respect for him up to another level because that was psyops. It was so good. I was so mad.
Do you know what
Right.
story I shared with Robin the other day as we were driving to Monterey
Uh-oh.
about how Dan had hunger
Oh.
pains that he didn't know?
Okay. I thought there were some other stories about Dan that are very funny but not appropriate for this context. Some
go
other
back
time
Yeah, I
with
was gonna
Dan.
say, we've gotten so far off track. I apologize for bringing back up the bagel.
But
Let's
it was
get back
great.
on track. Let's get
Oh,
back
that
on track
was-
to Pebbles
Okay.
and those little things we can do to improve our lives.
I
we
like
were actually
I
just-
like Pebbles. I like that image, right? We're
yeah,
just
it's just one at a
taking off
time.
Pebbles.
Just-
Taking off Pebbles.
But so we were just talking about this right before the stream started, but my pebble is a pretty simple one because I've been under a lot of stress lately, and I realized I had subconsciously been leaving my planner in the car. And it's something that's happened in the past, and usually when it does happen, if I leave my planner in the car when I get home for the day, I just go, that's all right, I'll fill it out when I get to work in the morning. But my planner has all my shit in it. And I had been ignoring this, but the reason it became a problem was this evening I got a phone call from my dad. And it was like, my planner's in my car. And for the last week, I've been putting a note of like, hey, call dad tonight in my planner. And I had been just leaving the planner in the car and be like, yeah, I don't have to worry about it. Then I got to work the next day and I was like, and just like next day, be like, I'm so dumb. Like, I'll do it tonight. And I'd just been doing it. And then that built up. And, my dad called and was like, oh, no. And I took the call and I'm like, hey, we haven't talked in a while. I was like, sorry, I had these notes, but I've been forgetting. And I'm sure everyone can commiserate on that of like something simple where you're just always putting it off. And it's like unintentionally putting it off. But then unintentionally putting it off is the perfect excuse just not to do it. So
like a
I'm just
dentist appointment.
yeah, you're just like, I forgot
is like a
I
very
forgot to
real
plan
thing.
that. I just won't plan it then. That's fine. But so I'm just.
I'll just die. Sure.
I'll just be in the
I know that I need to go to the doctor, but man, filling out that form is going to be really hard. So I
It's like
guess
all
I'll just put up
ages.
with these heart murmurs forever. It'll be fine.
But so I'm just adding a little timer onto my phone. So like around 7:15, 7:30, when I know I'll actually be home for the day, it's just gonna beep and it just says, "Hey, get your planner." like just as that reminder of like get your planner, actually check those final things. Because like in my mind, I had built the fact that it's okay because I used to only use my planner in the morning and through the day, and I'd usually be done with the planner before. But now the planner's become so much more. Now that the planner itself is actually integrated into my life, I've started using it for more stuff, right? And this goes back to that whole you just build pebbles. I was only using the planner in the morning just to be like, oh, what's my thing for the day? Then I've started putting more and more stuff into the planner. Like now the planner includes my whole budget, everything. And so now it's like, yeah, now that I am using the planner for way more, I definitely now need to actually remember to bring the planner in at the end of the day and do that decompression of like, oh, you know, what all happened today? What am I going to be doing tomorrow? Okay, cool. And then like close the book on the day and make sure that day is done and that like I've got everything ready for the next day. Because I also have notes like, oh, hey, get X or Y for work tomorrow. If I don't check the planner the night before, I'm not going to remember to put that next to my keys or things like that. So it's like, that's just that little thing. It's just a little telephone reminder. Hey, check your planner.
You know, Dennis, I just have to say, like, the fact that you actually have a planner and actually use it on a daily basis is like a step above what normal humans are capable of doing.
Yeah.
Dude,
So,
it took me
like, props-
2 years. 2
Props
years
already.
Yeah.
Just getting that far.
Mad respect. I just put a made a Google sheet to write down the lessons that I do through the day, since I have to enter those to get paid, and sometimes I just don't get paid for things. Sometimes it's like I worked with that
his
guy.
actual livelihood depends on the thing that you do because you just have decided to do
Literally,
it.
I worked with that guy for 4 hours on calculus, and he owes me $200. But it's been 2 weeks now, so I'm just gonna forget about it. Right, like that. So, and I own a planner. It's in my closet.
You
Right,
have your
dude,
phone.
that is the biggest thing. Like so it took me 2 years and like 4 or 5 different types of planners, because you'll come up with so many excuses. You're like, oh, this planner doesn't have like a lot of space, so I'm not gonna like write things in it. I'll just use it for like the dates, and then I'll remember everything else. This goes back to the very
that's
beginning.
the thing with the phone thing too. Like you can't just be like,
just
I'm
throw your
going to get
phone
an
away,
app
though.
on the phone. Like,
Yeah.
bullshit. It's not.
You have to have a lot of self-knowledge for that. It may work for some people, right? And that's
like my current tech lead. He actually writes at our morning stand-ups every day. He writes everything down by hand in his notebook for like things that people said that he needs to follow up on and all that stuff. He's writing it down by hand. He's very old fashioned, and I just have to imagine like that would probably work for most people, and most people won't do it.
It took years, but now that I've been doing it this year, it's super amazing. Like we spoke about it in weeks past on this too. Is like I'm also doing a daily. What was my mood? Like, was there a day where I had like an anxiety attack or like I felt depressed or anything like that? And I'm marking those down and then going back at the end of every week and every month and going, what happened that day? What happened before it? Like, and actually using that to proactively try to create more happy days as opposed to anxiety days. And like Brian knows now, like, because it's like I've been on this uptrend of more happy days and less anxiety depressed days, because like if you're actively paying attention to it, it gets to this point where it's like, oh, like I see this is coming now. Like once you start associating the warning signs, it's way easier to be like, oh, I see that coming. But once again, this comes back to I need to bring the planner inside and check at the end of the day.
So is this because you think that it's like by not bringing it inside, do you think that there's some like mental process that's causing you to decide not to do that?
Well, so when I'm not taking the planner,
I totally think that process exists and is actively working to subvert Dennis.
Yeah, because honestly, like if I bring the planner inside, I don't get to like eat Frito chips and play Persona 5.
Yeah, it means that you actually have to like, you can't use it as an excuse that it's like, oh, it's all the way out in my car.
And it's happened.
I'm gonna eat Doritos. Like,
yeah, but I mean, there's a chain of events there where it's like, oh, I forgot the planner in my car. I guess I won't look at it now. I'll go ahead and I'll eat the dinner while I'm watching a YouTube video. And it's like, oh, you know what? I've queued up like 3 or 4 YouTube videos now because these all look really cool. So I'm going to watch all those.
And now it's 10:20.
Like, oh, yeah, it's like, it's 9:30 and that new episode of Civilization is up and I want to watch that. And it's just like, so it's not that like.
And once you fail anything, right, the voice that says, well, we already screwed up, we may as well screw up big.
Yeah,
right?
The other problem is that you have a safety net too, because the planner's in my car. And so like my mind is always like, oh yeah, all the planner's in the car, so I'll just take it with me to work in the morning. And like when I sit down at my desk, first thing is I'll do it. And so that's the other problem is you're always like, oh, future me will handle it. Like that's the other big problem I have at least is
future Chris.
Yeah, right. Like that.
Yeah, right. Future you is amazing in ways that past you and present you have never even come close to.
Yeah, it's all
the whole thing. If you could just be like all self-help books, everything that's designed to make you feel better about yourself, if it can almost completely be boiled down to make future you's life easier.
Yep.
That's it. That's all.
Be the person in the present that you wish you were in the past.
Like, think about all the things you wish you would have done, and just do those things.
Yeah, just
like
do it
that's
right
it.
now.
But this comes back to that.
It's hard, but
it's so hard to do the big things, and I think that comes back to I don't want to pick on Casey, but the fact of being like, oh, I'm just going to start working, like making sure I go to the gym. It's like, to me, the fact that the act of working out, because I've been failing at these last few weeks as well. Like that's something I've truly been failing at is actually exercising now for like almost the last 2 weeks. I've missed almost every session. And I didn't realize it either because once again, like I was justifying it in my mind, like, oh, I had to stay super late at work. So, it's just all right. I'll make up for it. I'll go extra hard tomorrow or whatever. It's so to me is like that, like that exercise is like a permanent mountain or whatever. And it's like the pebbles or those little things to get you there. Like, I don't know.
And get it out of your head, right? Because there's always a compelling story to trump whatever structure you're trying to put into place if that structure only lives in your mind. So, out in the world and it's getting reflected back at you, there's a much better chance that structure is actually going to have the intended effect.
So the reason why I brought up the gym is because one, it made me feel better, and it makes me feel better to go to the gym, and two, one of the black belts of the gym is also a black belt in Hapkido and in judo, I think. And he's an amateur filmmaker. And he's like, the one thing in my life that I don't bend on is I always go to the gym and Sundays are family days. That's it. I don't do anything else. And I'm like, okay. So I make sure everything else happens and that's it. I'm like, that's a really good thing to be like to hold on to. Maybe I should make the same thing and say, okay, Sundays are gym days. That's it. Nothing else. Sorry. Every day is a gym day. Don't miss gyms. Sorry.
That would be great if you can implement it, right?
Yeah.
But the point is tactically, right? Finding a way to build there in gradual steps is just from knowledge of how the human organism works, more likely to lead to success. If you have the self-knowledge that you can make that step, then awesome, bully, make it happen, right? But that's the reason that we're talking about these small things is that gradual works.
Mm-hmm.
And making big changes, now you're in disequilibrium, and you're going to have a lot more forces pulling you back towards your previous equilibrium.
Yeah, definitely. Like going to the gym every day, 6 days a week, twice on Fridays, twice or 3 times on Fridays.
Hardcore.
Yeah, and like I was doing
like the normal prescription for gym is like you do it once every other day.
Yeah, but the thing is, and when I say gym, I mean like go to jujitsu because, yeah. But you know what though, like without going on too much of a tangent, it opened my eyes to a little like a obvious fact and a secret to life. The only thing you need in your life to be good at almost anything is just discipline and determination, and you will get good at whatever you want to get good at. And tangent.
Which can be boiled down further to always do the thing correctly, which
and put a lot of effort
is challenging, right? Like, it's really easy to just say, like, yes, if you just keep practicing always and never fuck that up, you will get good at things. But it's like,
Well, it's easier to do that with things that you like doing.
yeah, finding the motivation, like creating the motivation, the structures that actually get you to the place to do the thing, right? That can be really hard for a lot of people, and it requires a lot of self-knowledge to know what steps are going to be likely to get you to having the experience that you want to have. So,
Yeah, I mean, realistically, like it's not fun to go and get your ass beat by someone half your size or something. Get your ass beat.
Casey,
Twice
are
as
you
bad.
playing a game right now?
No. Why?
You're clicking suspiciously often, and the color
like-
of your monitor on your face is kind of changing suspiciously often.
Oh.
So maybe
No.
if you could focus.
I am focusing.
Okay.
I'm contributing to this conversation.
I'm a contributor.
But no.
All right.
Anyway,
So-
I don't want to go much of a tangent than I've already have. I
So
apologize.
I just want to share my thing, which I touched on briefly, was just, I'm going to do my laundry on a schedule because I've been doing my laundry on an as-needed basis, and yeah, about that. So
You quickly end up running out of socks because you're like, I can just keep going another day. I've got plenty of socks in there. I can keep going another day. And then all of a sudden you're like, where are all my clean socks?
I wear an undershirt because I wear button-down shirts every day because it's just my thing, and I think I almost have everything in equilibrium, but I think it's my undershirts right now that I don't have enough.
that's
So
an
I'm gonna
factor.
keep doing it until like I run out of like underwear, socks, and undershirts at the same time. Once I have that, then I know exactly the cadence that I need to do laundry on. And
Like you found
So
that perfect
Like,
equilibrium.
you can just go to Amazon and buy that shit.
That's
also
a
another thing.
wonderful investigatory process. I'm just going to do all my laundry. I'm just going to get to the bottom of it every
Oh,
Wednesday. and
another
so-
thing.
That's my
And
plan.
this is another small thing, but for the love of all that is holy, when you have a bunch of socks that need replacing, get rid of all of your socks. Buy all new batches of socks all at the same time. You will never run into a situation where socks don't match, where you where you have an odd number of socks, where it's like, oh, does this sock go with this other one? This was a different design. This is like a different sock. Blah blah blah. Like they'll all just be matchable.
I'm a
can
nerd.
say
I
that
have white socks.
I have run into the issue recently where I did not follow that recommendation, and I could not find the socks that I had previously purchased and been deeply, deeply happy with, and had to buy a different similar set of socks, and it bothers me every time they're mismatched. But I'm just enduring.
No,
that.
like all out with all of the socks. Literally take all of your socks when things start getting like you know when there's like a I don't know like sock entropy. You know when you start feeling like I'm running out of socks, and the socks that I have are not really matching together anymore. Just get rid of all of your socks. Literally, just throw them all away.
So
all
you
of your
do
socks.
decrease
All of the socks
entropy.
go into the garbage, except for like your fancy dress socks or whatever. Like if you have like nice little paisley socks or whatever, like okay, fine, keep those. But like for all of like your normal day-to-day socks, get rid of all of them. Go out to Target or wherever, buy whatever socks they have in the style that you like for that day. Buy like twice as much as you think you need. You'll be so much happier.
All right, that's a pro tip from
There will
Chris.
not be
This is pro
there will
tip.
not be mismatching socks. The socks will always be there. They'll always be the same, and you don't have to worry about it.
Take all of your socks that are serviceable and donate them to a homeless shelter.
That will work too.
The homeless need socks. That's
And
actually
it'll probably be
high.
fine.
Socks
Like-
and underpants, high priority.
Like the next time that I run out of that I get this feeling that I need to, the vast majority of my socks will be totally fine. it'll just be like there's enough entropy there where I'm going to feel like, it's time for the next batch of socks. And so maybe I, get rid of the socks that I have, and it's probably going to be, like several pairs of good socks there. But
I want to see you.
I'm just going to get rid of them all.
Stock entropy. Like
You're the only person that I've known who uses the word entropy outside of physical chemistry.
It's physics professors that use
entropy is a super, super useful concept, though, once you wrap your mind around it in a couple of contexts.
Creating less disarray,
less cohesion.
All of life is the struggle to stave off entropy, right? So we
to maintain
are
order.
Yeah, we are highly ordered systems, and in order to support ourselves and our well-being, we must create highly ordered systems. So understanding how entropy flows through the systems that we live in is actually a really useful cognitive tool to understand, like, what is actually going to support me being a happy human being. But that might have to be a topic for another day. I think we've got some ideas.
The whole sock thing I found from there's a Reddit, an Ask Reddit that was like life pro tips. I think that the most upvoted thing was about socks. I was like, I'm just going to do that next time, and it's worked out really good.
I believe it. But so we got a frame. We're talking about pebbles, right? Taking pebbles off the pile, right? Adding one little tiny thing. It's going to support you being a happy human being. And the great thing is, if you add a small thing, you're probably going to succeed. After 6 weeks, 2 months, 3 months, it'll be habitual, right? Like, it's never been a problem for me to fold my clothes before I get in the shower again. I got that habit, and I just start doing it before I even think about it, right? And I'm going to check back in with you all, but I'm pretty sure I can get laundry on a schedule into the same status. And then, right, I almost said schedule, and then I'm like, I'm not British. But then you can add the next thing, and you can add the next thing, and you can add the next thing, and you keep building supports, right? And gathering in information each time on what it takes for you to be a happy human being. And you iteratively develop yourself into a joyful existence.
Brian, would really help if for these podcasts if we had a syllabus.
Casey, I had a brilliant outro right there, and now you got to ask me about syllabi? You booties!
Turn it off there. Just boop.
Yeah, we're done here. We're done here. We're done.
Good night.